Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Untitled Podcast. If you are new here or returning, thank you for coming in to listen to me yap. And today we will be jumping into one of my favorite segments on this podcast called Cinematic Crumbs. And today, babe, we have a lot of warnings before I can even give you the title of this movie. Let's get into the warnings. There will be mentions of self-harm, of ED behavior or ED ideology. There will be mentions of sexual content. There will be mentions of drug usage. There will be mentions of a lot of things, honestly. Exiting of someone's livelihood and, well, I can think of it. And of course, body horror and terrible, terrible industry management. Those are the warnings that we have for this upcoming movie that I'm going to be talking about. And so let's get straight into it. The movie in which we'll be exploring today is called Helter Skelter. This is a 2012 movie that pretty much revolves around a lot of body horror, but mostly the industry, specifically the modeling industry, and what essentially happens within that industry and how it tears apart people. Specifically, our main character, Liliko, who is going to be the only person that I pretty much talk about throughout this whole thing. But I will be mentioning some other characters, but for the most part, it focuses on Liliko and eventually I think you say her name Kazu. Yeah, Kazu and Liliko, but mostly Liliko. So remember that name. And this description comes from the Google overview, just the Google synopsis. So I'll read it right now. Liliko, a successful model and television personality, seems to have it all until a long-buried secret threatens her career. She descends into a world of nightmares as she desperately tries to retain her perfect image. Now, with that being said in mind, Liliko, as you could tell, and as I've said, she's a model. She's one of the top models in Japan. And during this time in 2012, I'm not sure if you were cognizant or if you were there, but babe, skinny down was the rave. Like, being skinny was the it thing at the time. And so we're going to be exploring a lot of instances and things of body image and beauty and all that stuff. So again, another warning. I know I don't usually do two, but I have to. Another warning. If you have experiences with these sort of themes or it's just a tender spot that you don't want to really get into today, or you're kind of like, maybe I could do it, maybe I couldn't, go ahead and take care of yourself and listen to this later or listen to another thing if you want. Just take care of yourself. And with that being said, let's get into the movie. So starting off, Liliko, right? She is what you could imagine being the next top model. Like, she is not even the next, she is the top model in Japan. She's on every single magazine, she's at every single cover shoot. She's on everything: billboards, magazines, books, phones, wallpapers. Like, her face is plastered everywhere. And throughout the film, you see how her descent from that throne of authority and from that throne of holding beauty ultimately leads to, as it was pretty much said in the description, her end. And before we even get there, let's start from the beginning, right? Liliko, she has a outward persona and then she has her actual self. Her outward persona is very bubble girl, very nice. She's very appreciative that she has fans and that people love her and that she is ultimately being supported by everyone. She finds a lot of, how can I say this? She finds a lot of appreciation in the love she's being given from her fans. Remember that for later on because they'll come up. but her inward self is very nasty. The girl got a nasty personality. She treats the people around her who take care of her like trash. And that isn't even like an understatement. Like, she truly treats them like trash. She like plays with them in very sinister ways. She doesn't really care about them as people. She uses them for what they're there for, and then she discards them away, which will oddly enough be the exact same thing that happens to her. But before we get there, right, we see through Lilyco's journey of how her great descent into non-stardom happens is that before we even get there, like I said, she is the top model for everything. She has been pretty much cross put into different areas as well. Like, she's just not a model. She also does acting. She can't sing, but she's also done some like songs and whatnot. And she does those live like TV shows where they'll have people over and talk to them. I forgot what they're called, nightlight shows, I guess. Um, and she does a whole lot of things, and she's at the peak of her career. And everybody who knows her or knows of her sees her through this light of admiration and of wanting to be her. She's the it girl. And with that being said, you get this very loud, clamoring, annoying, in my opinion, annoying, irritating, grating noise of a bunch of teenage girls who are gyro down, but irritating voices overlapping with one another as they sort of kind of introduce us to how Lilyco is understood to be seen by the public. She is very much the girl you want to be. She has this beauty that you've never seen before. Look at her hair, look at her eyes, look at her lips, look at her nose, look at her body. Like, she has everything you want, and she makes great money. And you see that she's plastered everywhere. And through these teenage girls' perspectives, they even have her on their wallpaper. They want to become her. These eyelashes that they just saw in the store, oh my gosh, these are the same eyelashes that she uses. You get this instance of something a bit beyond admiration. There's commodification of Lilyco. There's money associated with Lilyco, and Lilyco herself is a product. And you can tell that she is being sold to people through multiple instances. But the earliest, I would say, is through how she is essentially digested and eaten by younger girls who want to become like her. Now, with that being said, Lilyco herself enjoys this lifestyle. And when I mean enjoys, there's not any sort of instance of actual happiness and radiance and having real pure joy in her life. When I mean she enjoys this, I mean she actively understands the things that she gets from it. Meaning that when she poses, when she does these talk shows, when she, allows herself to be commodified to the public, she's able to get the public prestige, not the public prestige, but more of the public acceptance and the love, quote unquote, from the public, as well as money, as well as, her clothes and keeping up her beauty. And she's able to get fame and glory through these means of commodifying herself to the public. And she is very aware that the reason why this has even came to fruition is not just from her beauty, but also because of the fact of the public are the main target audiences for how she has risen to stardom in the first place. When you have the public's love, you have everything else in the bag, is essentially the sort of ideology she keeps up. And I would like to say that literally I wasn't even 10 minutes in, and we see that this girl's life is very, very sad in the sense of she may have the money, she may have the jewels and gems, she may have, the hot boyfriend, the beautiful looks, the fame of it all, and the money to accompany her, but she doesn't have any actual warmth or happiness in her life, because she doesn't only commodify herself in the sense of a visual appeal to magazines and to wallpapers and all this other stuff as a model, but she also she allows herself to be sexually commodified in a way that leads her to having sexual relations with people that she needs on her side. And we see this a lot throughout the film. Like, if you listen to my World of Kaneko video where I was talking about how Kaneko essentially uses sexual activity or just the actions themselves to get to people and to get her, and not to get her, but to get them under her foot, to use them as a stepping stool in whatever she's trying to reach. That is the exact same ideology and actions that Kaneko has. This girl, Liliko, also does the exact same thing. She uses sex as a commodity. She uses sex as a thing that can sell. And she does this with people like photographers, with her boyfriend, with, at one point, her assistant and her assistant's boyfriend, like whoever that she can use to her advantage. She will try and seduce them and have sexual relations to them to invoke an emotional, I guess you could say, response from them to stay loyal to her, much like Kaneko did. And she's very manipulative in the way that she uses it because she herself doesn't get any pleasure from it. You could see that right off the bat. 9 minutes in, you could see that she was not enjoying the time that she was having with this photographer guy. She was just doing it and performing for him in the act just so she could get a good headshot. And she will continue to do this and has done this in the past in order to get what she wants. Now, with that being said, like it was said in the description, right? There's a secret that Liliko has that the public either knows about and just kind of looks the other way because they adore her, and or they believe that she is fully, quote unquote, what you would call natural in her beauty. And it's been, advertised as such. So of course the public, at most of the places that she's adored in, at least, the majority of them believe that she is a natural beauty. She is a beauty that was just born this way. You can't have her beauty because this was something that she, again, was born with. However, her secret, babe, according to her manager, she, quite frankly, the only things that are quote unquote natural about her were her ears, her eyes, her poom poom, and I believe it was her mouth, if I remember that correctly. That may be false, but for sure, her eyes, her ears, and her, meow meow downstairs were the only things that were natural about her, according to her manager. Because her big secret is that she has gone under extensive, and I mean extensive, plastic surgery. In the beginning of the film, when we're getting this, sort of montage of the girls speaking about Liliko, and you actually get the unveiling of who Liliko is after the surgery, you see that her whole body is bandaged. And that is because her whole body has essentially been operated on from her head to her toe. And the public, of course, doesn't know this. Hence why she's able to sell well. Because the work, babe, the work was good. The work was great. The work was fan-freaking-tastic. However, this is where things start to go awry. Because a detective, who I won't be talking about extensively, is researching, or rather looking into, the surgeon/clinic that Liliko used for her transformation, for the fact of they were using body parts of other people that are passed away illegally to use cosmetically for these, plastic surgeries. And we get to see that the issue that's about to happen to Liliko is that much like every other model that has ever faced, the public, she's not going to last very long. Her beauty that she's created and curated for herself based on these means of very much illegal practices in plastic surgery are going to ultimately end her in the dumpster when it all decides to fall apart, when her face will collapse. But before that does, he's just researching the other women that have ultimately been victims of this plastic surgery. And when I mean victims, I mean quite literally, these women have self exited because of the fact that they were no longer perceived to be beautiful, hence why they got the plastic surgery in the first place. These women are starting to off themselves once they see that the cosmetic procedures that they had gotten done were starting to show these black sort of, it kind of looks like bruising around their bodies, on their face, on their forehead, on the chest, on the arms, like in places where you can't easily hide it. And because, again, this is a legal practice, you have to pay in order for your treatment to stay, up to par. But as of right now, Liliko's, work that's been done has been doing her some great things. It's kept up. It hasn't shown its molding, essentially. And like the guy had mentioned in the movie, they start to spoil inward like fruit until everything reaches the surface. And very much so, that is what happens to Liliko through things as time progresses. But in the midst of that, you see that she's getting these brand deals. You see that she's getting these shoots. She's loved by the industry. The industry loves to eat her, and she loves what the industry gives to her. But then who comes to the scene? Like every other industry thing, there is always something new that comes to replace it, or tries to come to replace it, or tries to switch it out. Because, of course, audiences get bored. Audiences want something new. So Kazu, this new girl, comes onto the scene. Mind you, the girl who plays Kazu is not only an actress, but she actually is a model, and she was at her, I fear to say, prime during that time as well. So the fact that she was acting in this movie, chef's kisses. But Kazu comes onto the scene. She's this, younger, new face. She's just as beautiful as Liliko. Everybody is starting to adore her because she is humble. She is a lot more understanding of what the industry actually is in comparison to Liliko. Liliko, as I have mentioned, understands the industry that if you have their love and if you can keep up your beauty and screw the right people, you can obviously get whatever you want. However, Kazu, on the other hand, understands the industry to be something more like a working machine, a machine that will spit you out no matter how much beauty or pills or anything else that you take. As long as you are adored within the moment in which you have, and you understand that you'll be replaced at some point, it doesn't really matter when. It's just of how. And she kind of accepts this fact early on versus Liliko, who wants to stay in her prime and in her supreme and keep that spotlight attention only for herself. Those are the two differences between those two characters. And so you see Kazu come onto the screen and you understand off the bat that Kazu not only doesn't think differently from Liliko, but on top of that, she starts to slowly but surely infiltrate Liliko's spotlight. You can see this through now that they're doing duo collabs and not only advertisements, but also magazine covers, photo shoots. Like you see that Kazu is actively being put side by side with Liliko. And so therefore, Liliko, of course, understands this to be a threat to her. She understands that this girl is trying to unknowingly or knowingly replace her. She knows that the industry, at least, is trying to replace her. And what can the industry do if that girl is no longer beautiful? They'll throw her out, of course. But before they can even truly try and implement Kazu into the full spotlight of what was Liliko starts to see that she has a brown, bruised sort of patch on her forehead, underneath her bangs, underneath that tight and cut knit baby bang that she got. She sees that there's a bruise there, and she starts to go back to the clinic to, get the sort of medication which she needs. She gets not only the pills, but she also gets the, syringe and medicine liquid as well in order for it to work faster. And the thing about the industry, of course, of which we all know, is that the faster things happen, the better they are. The faster you are to become beautiful, the more you're able to get out of it. And of course, beauty has to be maintained. And so keep that in mind for the things in which are about to conspire later. But as Kazu is making her way into Liliko's light, you start to see that she's starting to lose the audience's attention. The audience's attention are obviously towards this new girl, this girl who's coming for Liliko's spotlight. Who is she? What does she want? The mystery that revolves around Kazu. What is so attractive about her, not only physically, but also personality-wise? We've gotten to know who Liliko is. We've gotten to know Liliko inside and out. We've digested Liliko. Now it's time for a new appetizer, and that is Kazu. And you see that she's starting to lose some of her stardom, Liliko. And with that, her boyfriend leaves her for a politician, because I think her boyfriend is some sort of, rich boy and lives off of daddy's money type of guy, and he really doesn't actually care for her. Again, she's just using the sex to use him for like image sake. Like, yes, I have a hot boyfriend. Yes, I have this, that, and the other. Again, sex is seen through there as well as a thing that can be sort of exchanged for physical, aesthetics. And he leaves her for a politician. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because of what Liliko does to this politician that is ultimately very heinous, incredibly heinous. This poor girl, this poor politician's daughter, did not deserve this at all. Shoot, I don't think there's many people that could deserve the fate in which that politician's daughter got, because she essentially made up her own plan. Again, she used sex in order to get her way, in order to encapsulate the loyalty of others. And those two people were her assistant and her assistant's boyfriend. And she tells them to take acid and pour it in the face of the politician's daughter in order to make sure that her ex-boyfriend comes back to her. Because once your face is gone, nothing else matters. And this is a message that is often repeated throughout not only the teenage girl montage of them yapping and being irritating, but also just from Liliko herself and other people as well. That once your face is gone, nothing else matters. And so when that happens, because they go through with it, that the ex-boyfriend does come back, and she realizes that this is a tactic that she can use multiple times in order for her to keep the spotlight and in order for her to be able to stay on top. If there's nobody else that's around her that's pretty, then she can be the only one that can be pretty. And therefore, the audiences will only love her. So, of course, naturally, you think the next person who's going to be up is going to be Kazu. However, she puts her assistant to the job to disfigure Kazu, not by pouring acid in her face, but this time by literally carving her up, meaning taking a knife and putting it to that girl's face. Now, before we even get there, we see in this montage where the assistant is trying to get the courage to essentially disfigure this girl with a knife, and Kazu's just kind of mean mugging her, like, girl, if you want to do it, but it doesn't really matter. because at the end of the day, the industry will always replace me with somebody new. You can disfigure me today, and I could give less of a shit if you disfigured me. But guess what? Another girl will take my place. So what's your point? Like, she gagged her real good. I'm not gonna lie, Kazu was my favorite girl. She gagged her really good. She was playing in her face. It was hilarious. But in between that, you see that the copious amounts of pills that Liliko has been taking to maintain her beauty, you see that throughout the movie, that ever since she had gotten that brown spot on top of her forehead, that she has started to panic. And anytime she has felt some sort of insecurity or sees another brown spot appear, or has felt the spotlight slowly dimming from where she's at, she starts to pop these pills in order to quote unquote maintain her beauty. However, these pills, babe, she starts mixing the pills with like alcohol and the liquefied version of the medicine and a cigarette. Like, I have not seen this girl eat a meal throughout this whole movie. She literally has been eating cigarettes for replacement meals, pills, and some alcohol, and that's it. And you see that she starts to descend into mental, like, a mental havoc because of the fact of, I'm guessing she barely has no food in her system. Even Kazu recognizes and even participates in ED ideology and actions through making herself throw up into the bathroom after a photo shoot in order to maintain her skinniness. Like, she doesn't let the food stay in her body because, again, skinny is in. So, of course, you can already assume that Liliko, who's been in this industry for a while, has also been within that ED mindset. And you see that with barely anything in her stomach, nothing but drugs and alcohol, that her mental disarray starts to essentially show itself, not only physically, but what she sees visually during this live talk show that she's on is crazy. It's her birthday. She is about to get this sort of, birthday celebration from the host. Everybody is cheering around her. The lights are on her. The flashing is on her. The cameras are on her. It's incredibly overstimulating just to be there as a regular person, but to be there also going through what seems to be an overdose. Because again, I don't think she was taking that stuff even within the correct dosage. I believe she was just popping it as it came and just let it be. Like, the amount of pills that she's taken during this whole time was quite frankly insane. So much so that it starts to show itself very rapidly. But specifically in this, scene of her being at this talk show, she has already popped the pills before she even got out there. And she's going through an overdose. She starts seeing that the decorations around her are moving. People are laughing. People are being loud. There's flashing. There's lights. The whole set of the live shows starts to turn into this very scary, artistic, indie art house looking, and you see it happen everywhere around her, and she feels like she's losing her mind. She starts to grab her hair, her head hurts. She's out of balance. Also, she's probably in 6-inch heels. So she's like, stumbling around everywhere. Everybody is in her face, singing happy birthday. And she's seeing these hallucinations of like the heart having an eye, and this guy with, being a circus man comes up. Like, she starts to have these really, really very vivid, very bright, hyperpunk sort of La La Loopsy-esque hallucinations. And she starts losing it. She starts tweaking out. She flips the cake, flips the girls who had the cake, starts tweaking out, holding her hair, like pulling her hair out. She's moving around. She's falling on the floor. She's actively going through an overdose. And mind you, this is live on TV. And everybody can see it, I believe. Like, I think they were actively shooting this as she was tweaking out and going through an overdose. And nobody could really calm her down and get her down to earth because, of course, she's going through an immense, and I mean an immense havoc of an overdose during the time in which she was supposed to be making sort of like her mini comeback. And this was not the time to have it. And within this montage, you see her tweaking out over the overdose, and you also get Kazu's words of like, well, yeah, I'm going to be replaced if you carve up my face. Like, it's really not that deep. Like, you can do it if you want, but it's not going to solve anything. And then you see Liliko start to like tweak out and scream. And I love this one shot that is seen through this montage. And you get Liliko in the front. She's facing towards us. She's screaming. She has her hands in her hair, and she's like pulling at it. It's ruffled, it's feathered, it's like very wild. And you see the cameras in the background still on and pointed towards her as she's actively crashing out. And it brings about this whole conversation, if you think about it, right? You don't got to think about it hard, but it brings up the conversation of like, when do you turn off the cameras? Obviously, when the girl starts tweaking out, you should have turned off the cameras. But there's still these lights. There's still these cameras that are on that are capturing even her descent into mental anguish. And you still see that they are on and pointed towards her, even within this very vulnerable part in time in which she's having. And after that, the assistant, we've gone back to the assistant and Kazu. The assistant, she's like, ooh, girl, I can't even do it. Like, she can't bring herself to carve up the face of this girl. And she ultimately doesn't. And Liliko, on the other hand, passes out from her overdose. And I'm guessing is somehow, medically, I'm guessing, revived. I don't know. Next thing we see, she's in her bedroom, in her bed, waking up to her assistant. But the thing about that is, I was like, did she ever get medical help? So of course, we are not protecting the artist. Liliko wakes up, she's in her bed. She sees her, but her assistant beside her. And her assistant is trying to help her as much as she can. She's trying to actively clean up the mess that's around her house, tries and like gives her words of encouragement. And before she even got to that point of breaking down from an overdose, she did have a moment on top of a building that she really wanted to quit. I think that, I forgot to mention this, but I'm bringing it up right now. I think during that one but top of the building, I think that was probably the first time that we saw her be truly vulnerable and be completely raw as a person, and not as Liliko, but rather her real name. Because you see this girl break down after not being able to fulfill the wishes of the audiences and the spotlight and the people around her and her manager and everything else, including herself. You see her break down and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. I can't do this. Like, I need to leave this industry. Like it's eating at her. It's tearing her apart as a person. She can't keep it up. And I think that was one of the first times that we see her be very vulnerable with herself and be vulnerable around others and just show the audiences that, yes, this girl, even though she is very much imagined to be very cartoonish and plastic and not real in the way that she acts, she is still at her basis a human being. And we see that a second time when she is in the field with her sister and she's having a conversation with her that she should focus on herself. She should become more prettier, get skinnier, and maybe have her face done in order to get to where she's at. And there's this conversation that I find incredibly needed for Liliko, because her sister tells her that she is strong for even trying to become beautiful in that way, and that she could never be as strong as her because she just doesn't have it in her. However, Liliko responds that beauty makes you stronger, not you're stronger for getting into beauty, which I think was both in itself very much true. I think that her going through the very extensive procedures, and mind you, from what I saw and what I heard from the dialogue, wasn't even under drugs when she went through all those procedures. She went through it she just endured it. Like, they strapped this poor girl down and did all these procedures to her. And I think she was strong, not only mentally and emotionally, but also mentally in order to get into the position in which she's in. But not only that, but in pursuit of beauty, she was strong, but also to keep the beauty itself made her even quote unquote stronger. But that strength really just came at the detriment of not only her mental stability, but also everything else in her life. And that's why she has this very overarching fear of everybody around her just leaving, because everybody in which she's met never really got to know her, doesn't really know her, and will never really know her. And those were like two of the times in which she had that very human-esque, very human conversation or just action during that time. And you see that. And she had this call, we're back at the bedroom. She had this call with somebody, and pretty much she's losing. She's losing it all. She's losing her prestige. She's losing her professionality. She's losing that balance, that odd and off-scale balance that she was able to keep for all these years and able to keep herself, rooted in. And now she, runs out the apartment. And there's this imagery and symbolism with clock, which I believe has to do with time. Like, she's running out of time. She's always on a time schedule. She will never be keeping up with time in the way that she needs to. And what I mean by that is not actually actively being on time to an event, but rather just she won't be able to keep up with the time of the industry. And also the color red is incredibly symbolic within this movie. But the butterflies, time, aka a clock, and the feathers, specifically red feathers, all come into a conclusion later on. However, things hit a boiling point, because after that tweak out session, babe, guess who was left alone in the apartment with the files that were sent to Lilyco that showed that she had got procedures at that clinic? The assistant. The assistant has had enough with how much she had been mistreated throughout the time which she had with Lilyco. They swarm her apartment when Lilyco was back in there, and she is now, told essentially that her documents have gotten out to everybody. Everybody knows that she got plastic surgery. Everybody knows that she isn't who she seems she is. Everybody knows that she is plastic. And that what was advertised that she was natural was all fake. And so with that being said, you're going to have an uproar, and boy, do we see an uproar of public opinion change practically overnight. And that public opinion change overnight, babe, it's scary. It looks and it seems scary. And there's this scene within her tub where she's just trying to relax after everything that has happened. And you see that, again, the beauty pills, the pills start arising from the water. One by one, she is drowning in pills. Pills. All that she can do is take pills and or shoot herself up with the medicine in order to keep her beauty. There is still that same mindset and drive to try and keep what she has left in her mind, even though that it is, quite frankly, scaring the crap out of her. And the last couple of things before this movie ends, because we're nearing near the end, is that her manager essentially says, like, yeah, girl, you're done. Like, I tried to make you into a younger version of me. It worked for a little bit. We tried the whole natural, everything she looks like is natural, itsy bitsy thing that worked for a little bit, and now we're fucked. We are now screwed up and down the wall. I have lost all my money. I'm in red. People are leaving my management because of everything, and with the clinician's office and their shady business of taking dead people parts and using them, and girls are offing themselves, and the brown spots, you're deteriorating essentially. Yeah. we're screwed. So here is what we're going to do. In a very PR in a very PR move, her manager decides to make a press conference for her so she can be able to try and at least get some sort of garner sympathy and some sort of, enlightenment or enlightening of the backlash from everybody's opinions of what this girl is now. And she gets out there to the stage, going from the stadium down like she used to. Those stadium seats are empty. Like bare bone empty. Nobody came to see what she has to say. Except for the detective. And you have this scene between the detective and Liliko. And Liliko still holds on to that sort of image of, not even image, of this idea that if the public don't love you, you have nothing at all. You are useless. You are nobody. You will never be able to suffice or live in this sort of lifestyle without the public's love. And that just is what it is. And the detective, of course, is like, no, you have to find yourself. Like, you have to find some sort of silver lining, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. They have that moment. We're switched to what is now the actual statement. Everything is pure white. And I mean pure white. You have pure white everywhere. Her dress, her background. You can't even see the people that are in front of her because, again, what's there? Flashing lights. All trying to catch her make one bad move or a move. Just flash, flash, flash. And you have the microphones set up in front of her, ready for her to make her statement in which she was supposed to memorize, given from her manager. She gets up there, and I don't remember exactly what she said. I literally looked at this movie yesterday, but she says something along the lines of, essentially, I can't do this, right? Like, I can't live without the public or whatnot, or something around those parks, I believe. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, of course. But she says something. Know that she said something, right? Next thing that you know, she takes out a knife and stabs herself in the eyeball, not in the throat, not in the heart, in her eye. And you see her take it out. She essentially blinded herself in front of, I would dare say, hundreds of cameras. You see her do the action, and the cameras stop flashing for a second. A second they stop flashing because of the shock of what just happened. And then you see the flashes come back on, and they're flashing, and they're taking photos, and they're, trying to capture the moment of what would be her end and her last few moments on this earth before she drops. You see her fall, and you see these red feathers, which are very symbolic of the end of her, of being consumed by the industry and being consumed by the people, by being eaten. The red feathers come down. She hits the ground. She's standing still. I think she's still breathing, but she's definitely standing still. Her eyes are open. The red feathers are around her and surrounding her, and to such a degree that the space in which was white around her is now covered in red feathers, and she lays there. And that's what you would assume would be the end. In fact, I'll talk about this later. I wish that was the end of this movie because I feel like it would have made a lot more sense. However, here's the end of the movie, and I'll keep it short and frank. Kazu has now taken the spotlight of Liliko. Liliko is presumed to be dead, even though the detectives have recognized that they haven't gotten a body from Liliko. But everybody had seen her, stab herself in the eye during that press conference. And so everybody had assumed that she had died. And with that being said, even within her death, she had become a superstition across the board of being almost like a ghost, almost sort of like Bloody Mary towards especially teenage girls who no longer want to be her, no longer want to be like her, but now uses her death as a superstition of like, if I say her name, will she come to me at night and steal my face? She, even in death, isn't able to rest or able to get any sort of peace. And the detective sees her sister and sees that she has made a transformation. And that really just puts into the audience's mind that even though Liliko is gone, the world and the industry of beauty and what is seen to be beautiful continues to infiltrate, especially young girls' minds, and eventually eats up at them to the point in which they do make the change, just like Liliko's sister. And back to Kazu, right? Kazu, she is now the spotlight girl. She is still doing her due. She's still doing top model stuff. You see her in this celebratory way now being managed, I think, by Liliko's previous manager, or at least she has some of the old people that used to work with Liliko now working for her, and she's essentially replaced her in all means of the word. Like, Liliko is now off the earth. Kazu has now taken her place, and she is going through the strides of it, not in the same way as Liliko, but still going through it, and is taken to this underground sort of celebratory freaky bar. Now, this freaky bar is very reminiscent and very much borderline identical in terms of decoration and in terms of aesthetic as the hallucinations that Liliko had. And she sees that Liliko's old assistant, the one who tried to carve up her face, goes into the back room. She follows her there because she's like, girl, what are you doing here? And she sees that in the room, back towards her, face towards a mirror that has always been a theme with Liliko. Liliko, still alive, still in the flesh, but one eye down and an eye patch on. And that is the end of Helter Skelter. Now, here are my thoughts, right? I think Helter Skelter did a fantastic job of showing the horrors of the industry and showing how it influences not only the young girls' perceptions of it, but also how it pretty much deteriorates the girl in question, in which is being commodified. You see that starting out with Liliko herself, she had to go under extensive amounts of pain. The usual quote of beauty is pain was very much personified through Liliko. She had to go through procedures, multiple procedures, the majority of her body being made out of plastic procedures in order for her to obtain this sort of attention and spotlight and opportunity that was given to her through her beauty and through her sexual advances on people and through essentially curating herself not to be the person that she previously was before she had ran away from a small town place, but rather to curate herself into this beautiful, bubbly, sweet girl, absolute sweetheart of the public image, top model, but also very sexy persona that was never truly her. You see her morph herself into this way and essentially restrain herself in that in order for her to get the advantages that comes with it, which is the public's love and, of course, the money and fame and the beauty that she gets to upkeep, the beauty that has gotten her everything in which she has. But you also see how this industry is also very quick to replace Liliko. If something new, something fresh, something people haven't seen before but they love now comes onto the scene. You see how Kazu is now pushed in by the industry that made Liliko in the first place and is ultimately replaced even within her death. And when you see the influences that the industry and the imagery of different magazines, of billboards, of, TV screens or ads, of how beauty is and shown to the public through media, that the influences in which it has on especially younger teenage girls are incredibly detrimental, because you see these girls start to admire her and want to become her, but they don't even really fully know how she came to fruition with the industry, how she became the person which she is, how she even got into the industry. They don't know the first thing she had to do to get her foot in the door, which was be sexually exploited. The girls don't know that. The girls just see that there's a beautiful woman out there who they want to be like in order to get the things in which they think would be great to have, which is people's love and people's admiration. And you see that through the film, and how that changes when everything that has essentially gotten her into the industry and where she started out from, how that essentially starts to change the influences of what that does to girls. And the girls now have this sort of hatred for Lilyko, for lying and for being what they weren't perceiving her as. And again, that is a direct effect and result of what Lilyko has been commodified to be as, to be something to be eaten, to be seen as this very perfect person when she was never given room to be seen as a normal human being first. And it also leads to a lot of exploitation for not only younger girls who want to be like her, but also the artist herself. Again, like I said, I think this movie does a fantastic job of talking about those very heavy topics and how a lot of these things are normalized. For example, the 80 ideology that Kazu was talking about, in terms of, oh yeah, all the top models, throw up into a toilet because how else are you going to stay skinny? You have things talking about body dysmorphia, body image, body horror, hallucinations, drug abuse, the beauty industry as a whole, what it is to be a model, what it is to be a girl. Like, you have all these things being talked about greatly throughout this film, even to be talked about like exploitation that comes with it. All of these things were done very well. The only thing that really sold it short was the fact that I wish they would have cut the movie right there when she was on the ground after she has stabbed her eye. I wish the movie would have cut there, because I feel like that would have resolved everything. Not resolved, but rather concluded everything in a very beautiful way. And when I mean beautiful, I mean not in like a good, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I mean in the sense of this was a very well written movie. However, it gave a very anime cartoonish way of ending the movie at the end by having her still be alive and having her essentially turn around in this very villainous-esque sort of way to meet the girl who replaced her. Like, I feel like that was pretty, not cliche, but kind of corny. I'm not gonna lie. I wish they would have just ended it with her actively being dead, because I feel like that would have been a lot more impactful, especially because the movie itself was taking itself very seriously. Like, you could tell this wasn't like a comedic relief sort of film that has serious issues within it. Like, no, this movie was taking itself very seriously. So had it ended on a serious note as well, that would have been a lot more impactful in comparison to having her, go like, dun, 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 I am still here, like that sort of kind of cartoonish ending that it did have. That's one of my biggest critiques of this film, because I feel that if they were to end it at her death, it really would have shown how extreme and, harsh the industry can be. And this can be a result of the industry, because we have seen multiple times how many female artists, just in the West, mind you, this film is Japanese, but this can be pretty much talked about in any other country that has media sources that often depict females in these sort of lights, that put this admiration onto girls, and that often commodify from them, and by proxy also exploit them in a way. We can see this today through multiple examples. Girl, look at Britney Spears. Look at Britney Spears and everything she had to go through. Look at people like, even I would dare say, y'all gonna hate this, Cat's Eye. Look at how Cat's Eye is being commodified. Like, you can see how a lot of young girls, especially artists, whether that is models, whether that is, you know, singers, actresses, anything that is within media, they can be exploited up and down the street without much thought. And it's kind of this normalized thing. And of course, like I was talking about with Cat's Eye, things can be literally pit up against these girls for little to no reason. The public opinion can change overnight. They can love you 1 second and then hate you the next. And everything in which you've built can literally blow up. That right there, again, like I said, great depiction, story of the exploitation of the media industry for girls and what you have to do in order to get there. However, again, the ending, how they ended with the death, I feel like it would have been impactful, very, very impactful, because there have been various examples of not only women, but also men as well, ending their lives because of the industry and the pressure that it applied on them. And I think that would have been great to have as an ending. But yeah, if you enjoyed this pod, if you're on YouTube, you can like and comment. You can do that. You have free will. Or you can't. Again, you have free will. If you're listening to this on a streaming platform, thank you for tuning in to listen to me yap once again. And please listen to any of my other pods if you want to. Again, you also have free will. And I hope you guys have a great day. All right, that's it. I'm logging off. Bye.